Hello. This week, a little bit of something different, really. People that have been watching the channel for a little while now might remember these. It's a throwback, really, to the scenario that I was trying to create based on the train. And basically, what I want to do now is get these models obviously mounted and primed, ready for painting. So obviously I've got this Mercedes staff car, if you like, that I want to get prepared for that scenario. And I'm going to go with the classic colours, of silver highlights and black. And what I'm going to do to start with is I'm going to spray paint it with a matte black. And then the other thing that I've already done is I got some passengers from different places, actually. I've got this German officer. Now, unfortunately, I've had to do a little bit of amputation to fit him in there, but it doesn't show. And he'll thank me for it in the end, because he'll get a decent ride in there. So he's going to sit in there when it's done. He actually came with a lady passenger, and again she had to let go of her legs to fit in there. But the one I had to alter the most was the driver, because I think this was a driver for a little car, and it had got the seat already on it, so I've had to cut the seat off, and I've took the steering wheel out of the car so that I can get him in, and he fits in there nicely now. So that'll be that little setup, and then it's just a question really of mounting my bikes on these 25 by 50 bases. But I think I'm not going to put all the wheels on and everything initially, because I want to paint the underneath first. So when I've primed it, then I can look at putting them back in there, really. And these will obviously want spraying, as will the bikes, with a something a lot lighter, so I'll probably go for a light grey. But I just thought I'd tell you the outline. So anyway, enough rambling, let's get in there. I'll bring you back as soon as I've got these painted, and we'll take it from there. Right, so I've got all of these primed now. So obviously I'll be setting up to paint them in a minute. But before I do it, I want to glue these wheels in place now that it's been primed. And one thing I might leave to the very end, though, before I put them on, just for ease of painting, is the little flags. Because I'm going to look to put something on those anyway. But I think what I'm going to do is leave that till towards the end. But I do want to get these wheels glued in place. Now, with it having been primed, I'm not sure whether this will do the job, because obviously it's not plastic to plastic. So I think what I'm going to do is opt for a bit of super glue on these. First of all, I'm going to put the wheel from the wheel arch back in place. This one seems to be in place already, so I'm not going to try and tease it out when it's so firmly in place. But now let's get the wheels on. I didn't want to glue it on beforehand because I wanted to make sure I got underneath this wheel arch properly. That's that in place. That's just turning round. Alright, let's get the next one in. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to widen the hole a little bit on this just to make it a little bit easier to get it in place. There we go. Right, same with the front, I think. Make sure I've got them all in position how I want them. Yeah, that sits nice. Right, I'll let that dry. And then we can get prepared for the painting. So I'll get all of that set up and then I'll bring you back. Right, so now that the car's dry, what I'm going to do to the main bodywork, I'm going to apply some gloss black, you know, to bring up that nice shine. Right, yep, we'll let that dry. Move this to one side, get ready, and then we'll start looking at the bikers next. Right, so I'm starting the motorbikes now, and I'm going to use some Army Painter Uniform Grey for the main body of the bike. And if you're wondering why the phone's in there, it's because I'm just going to keep referring to a photograph of a German bike for when I get to certain bits to see that I don't go over the wrong bits in this grey. And I've brought, if you're wondering what the reflective lights are, I've got my little magnifying glass that I'm painting through now as well to help me get into the details. Right, so that's the first one done. I'm going to do it a step at a time, so I'm going to go through using this grey now on all the other bikes, so you don't need to see me painting them again. And then obviously we can come back and pick out some of the other colours. Quite pleased with these. I found these on, someone had printed them on eBay, and they look the part, and I thought they'll look ideal for, side riders against the car. Hopefully I'll do them justice. I've painted up an old motorbike for a bit of wreckage and stuff in a scenery project, but I've not actually painted a motorbike rider in the army, so it'll be quite something to use, really. Right, I'll crack on with the rest of them and then I'll bring you back. Right, so the next colour that I'm going to work on is the uniform. I'm going to try and avoid the bits that are not the uniform, but if I catch the odd strap it won't matter because I'm going to be going over them with a black anyway. But I'm going to be using Army Painter field uniform. Well, field grey, I think. Yeah, field grey it's called. So let's start work on these. So that's what he's looking like at the moment. Obviously there's a lot more detail to go on yet, but it's starting to look the part. Right, I'll crack on and get the rest of these done to the same level, and then I'll bring you back for the next part. Now that the green grey has had time to dry a bit, I'm going to use some Army Painter Castle Grey, and I'm going to do a dry brush with this just to catch a bit of detail on the uniform in places. I want to do this now before I move on to the next one because I just think it'll be a lot easier. Whether you can make that out. There's more detail on some of these figures than there is on others. I think you can see it on that arm, look, where it's caught the folds in the material. And that's all I'm looking to do, so it's only a quick job really, but I want to do it now before I move on to anything else. You can see a bit more on that one as well, on his leg. and again on the arms. It's not a massive difference, but it just gives it a little bit of something. Stops it looking too one-dimensional. One thing I did forget to tell you is I went with a kind of a dark blue for this lady's dress, because I thought I wanted to keep all the bodies so they've all been done to the same level, so I opted for a blue on that. Right, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to approach the belts and straps, because they're all going to be black. So I'll go through the bikes on them and get them done next. Right, I'll bring you back when I'm about to start. Right, I've had a bit more of a think about it, and I don't know whether the black's going to be too jarring, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go with Army Painter's Necromancer Cloak. It'll still have the same effect. I mean, it's very dark, but I just don't think it'll be quite so jarring. Oh. So you get quite a lot done with that colour on there. Right. Okay, then I'll crack on through the rest of these now, and then I'll bring you back. Right, so the next part I'm going to do is I'm going to work on the skin. Now, these are wearing gloves, so in this case it's just going to be their faces. And I'm going to go with Army Painter Cobalt Skin as the base. And then later on, when that's dried, I shall add an highlight of Army Painter Corpse Pale. Right. So what I'll do now is I'll carry on, get the rest of these skin parts painted up, and then I'll bring you back. So what I've done now is captured a series of photographs for the next steps, painting up the gun straps and some of the other smaller details. The one that was particularly tricky was the goggles, because you have to do like a black outline and then the blue in the middle, and then the same kind of thing on the binoculars on this one. And at the same time I was trying to bring the passengers up to the same level so they'd be ready. And then my attention went back to the bikes to paint the tyres. I haven't got any number plates for these, unfortunately, so I'll probably have to leave that for another time. I tried writing it on, but it didn't look good, so I left it. So then it was painting up the guns. I used a fur brown Army Painter on that, and a green for the canister. And then the most detailed one was the officer
getting a white outline around his iron cross.
Right, so I've been flicking around doing lots of the slightly different colours, like the exhaust. I've done in like a bit of a rust grey. It's too light at the minute, but when I start applying the washes, that should be okay. And I'm going to go with the Necromancer cloak for the helmets now. And it's just going to pick it out as a bit different from the rest, really. What I will do, because some of these helmets have got the goggles on, you know, they're not actually wearing them, they've actually put them up onto the helmet. In that case, I'll probably just go over the entire thing and then pick out the goggles afterwards. A little bit later on some of the helmets as well, they've got the straps coming down. So, you know, I will pick those out probably in an oak brown colour. Right, so I'll crack on and get the rest of the helmets done and any of the straps and the goggles, and then I'll bring you back.
I'm afraid I jumped ahead a little bit on the motorbikes because I went on to do gunmetal on all the bike spokes and everything. And then I've basically finished off the bikes with some strong tone washes.
So with the motorbikers, I pressed ahead and I've given them a dark wash as well. A very light one. I mixed it with some of the quick shade medium, you know, to tone it down a little bit. But I'm pretty pleased with how the bikers have come out. Bring another one up. And I managed to finish off the passengers as well. I had to do some quite small detail on the officer to get his iron cross and everything in there. Did my head the power of good, not to say my eyes. So they're pretty much ready now. I am going to look at some kind of number plate system for the bikes, but whether it'll be legible, because it is so small, I'm not quite sure. I certainly haven't got any decals. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn my attention back to the car and start painting up some of the grills and the lamps and door handles and door latches and bumpers. And I'm going to go for shining silver from Army Painter for those. But I'm also, in the grill, I'm going to try and do the actual grill behind the main grill in a true copper colour. But I'm hoping that I can get it on finely and then do like a dry brush of silver over the top of the grill part, and then obviously thicker on the main outer grill. So I'm going to start with that. I'll try and zoom in a little bit. Put the light down onto it. So this I'm going to try and do just down the centre parts. I will afterwards give it a wash. Obviously I'm going to have to let this dry before I start trying to put the silverwork over the top. So after this I'm going to switch my attention to the rest of the car. But let's put the light on it. You can see that. It looks fairly dominant at the minute, but I'm hoping once I put the silver on the raised bits, it'll drop back. Right. I'll just start a little bit of this and show you it going on. I'm going to do the back of these lamps. So you can see that. Right, I'll carry on doing the trimmings on, the door handles and latches and things, and then I'll bring you back.
So I motored on, if you can pardon the pun, and got all the silver work done on the car. And then I turned my attention to the flags and started getting them ready. Then I got some finishing touches to do to the car, such as the headlights. I did the window screen as well in the silver. I then decided to give a silver trim to the actual flagpoles as well. And then it was time to glue the driver and the passengers in place. And as you can see, they fit pretty well. So overall, it's turned out pretty much what I was aiming for. Oh, and I managed to get the flags finished as well.
Right, so it's time now that having got the car pretty much how I wanted it. The only thing I haven't come up with yet is a number plate. I'll just look out for transfers, I think, in the future. I've got some somewhere, but I can't find them at the moment. And I did try to just write them on with a very fine pen, but it didn't look great, so I left it. Although I have done that with the flags, because again I hadn't got anything quite small enough. But it looks the part. I mean, it's not meant to be seen as such. It's just to give the flavour of it. So, but what I'm going to do now that I've glued those in place and the passengers are in, is go back to the motorbikes and put a base down. So I'm just using my basing glue here. And then I'm going to sprinkle some fine chipping on it. a number of ways you could have done this if you're mounting a motorbike, I suppose. I mean, you could have put used a roller on some milliput to get the the tread of the road that you've got, or something like that. But to be honest, I just want to keep these relatively simple so that I can use them in a variety of places. But mainly it's going to be in that scenario, with the staff car. Use my pull them up a bit. Just going to use the top of my wet palette for now. So that's the first one done. It's just relatively simple, but I mean it'll look the part when it's sat on the road. I will paint the edge of the base when it's dry and we've sealed it. Right, well, you can see how they're being done now, so I'll get the rest, these other three done. And what I will do off camera is when they're dry, I'll seal them and then we'll come back and wrap this one up.
Right, so they're complete. And I finished off by painting the bottom of the bases as well on the motorbikes, as you can see. I'm pretty pleased with the way it's turned out, It's a nice little 3D model, actually. And to be honest, I don't know who it was, else I'd give you a shout out. But the 3D bikers are pretty good as well. They ended up looking a lot better than I thought they might. But it's hard to visualise when it's just white plastic. One thing, the train scenario is getting a lot closer now. There's only a few more things to build, I think.
Right, so the project's complete. It's been quite a while waiting to get these done. So I'm pleased to get another item off of my mountain of opportunity. It's gone pretty good actually. If I was going to be picky, you know, I should have perhaps prepared to get some little registration plates and things for the bikes. But if I really need to, I'll add them later. In the meanwhile, I've varnished them so that they're ready for action, and that's the main thing. But I'm pretty, pleased with the car itself. Considering I managed to source the officer and his lady companion and the driver from different sources. They've actually come together pretty much as I wanted them to do. And, you know, if you're a regular, you'll know that this initially came by as an idea for the train scenario that hasn't died. I am going to get back to it eventually. I have plugged away at odd bits over time, but that's really to represent the Schofield character from that film. And the motorbike riders just come about through an idea. I thought, you know, he'd perhaps be escorted. I mean, they could be used as a little squad in their own right, I suppose. I'm not sure where it'd fit in with the rules, but it's certainly worth a thought. But I'm definitely intending to use them in the scenario when I get to it. Anyway, I'll wrap this one up. I hope you've enjoyed it. I know it's very specific, so it'd be great if you have found something useful in it, but perhaps give you some ideas of different things that you could do for your setup. Anyway, as I say, thanks for joining me. If you have liked it, please consider giving me a thumbs up or even subscribing. And if there's any questions that you want to ask about it, by all means, you know, drop them below in the comments. You know that I'll try and answer everybody as soon as I can. Right, I'll leave it there, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.